Greetings, all my little ponies out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with the final episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. It's season 9, episode 26, titled "The Last Problem." And I gotta tell you, when this episode started up, I wasn't really ready. I wasn't ready to accept that this was the end. I've been watching this for years now, ever since, towards the end of the first season, and to just be done with it, I don't feel like I'm ready. When this started up, I just wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to handle it, and honestly speaking, I still don't feel like I'm ready to handle not having this series to look forward to. Something positive. Despite anyone's criticisms or feelings towards it, this was a positive series that brought together a lot of people, both fictional and in reality, and it will be sorely missed. If not by, a few of you out there, it'll definitely be missed by me. Now we open up with Canterlot, seeing that it has been rechristened as this hub of so many different creatures, dragons, yaks, sea ponies, what have you, the hippogriffs, all different manner of creatures treat this as a home now, which is very inspirational to see. That was the one thing that always kind of made me question a lot of things in terms of this world, that, while we did have all the ponies together, there were other creatures on the outskirts of that just weren't, incorporated into their lives. But now everyone lives together in harmony, which is very beautiful, honestly. And we see that Spike has grown after all these years into a mighty beefy boy of a dragon, and he is the friendship ambassador, settling various disputes across Equestria, one of which happened with the Apopalousans, I think, and the Diamond Dogs. Haven't seen them around in a while. But the ambassador of friendship, man, it was weird to see him in this new form, but a lot of his personality still remained, which was just great to see. Like, it really, a lot of this feels like seeing an old friend after a few years. And speaking of weird turns in age, Twilight is now a full-fledged member of royalty, one of the almighty tallest, with her spindly legs and all that good stuff, and her flowing magical mane. Just really surreal to see her looking like this, but at the same time you still see glimpses of her older look in there, her younger pony self for the most part, and it's just really interesting to see this, and really makes me feel like, man, almost an entire decade has passed in terms of watching this series. But Twilight has called upon Spike to help her out with a specific problem that she's having. Namely, ever since she took over the School of Magic, she has had an up-and-coming student, her own almost successor, for the most part. But this student is having a specific friendship problem. And as we see, of all creatures, Gallus, a member of the Royal Guard. Like, dude, way to go. I never would have thought he would have done this, but there he is in the armor. Gallus, member of the Royal Guard. And in fact, he almost seems like he's captain of the Royal Guard. I'm not sure, but man, how surreal. But he lets in Twilight's apprentice, Luster Dawn. Now, Luster Dawn is actually considering dropping out of the School of Magic, as she feels that, she's not quite comfortable with the idea of friendship and all the curriculums they're taught in the School of Magic on the subject. And when Twilight questions why she would choose to do this, why she feels that friendship isn't necessary, Luster Dawn explains that, well, Twilight rules all of Equestria all by her lonesome. Yes, she had friends who helped her gain her status and overcome great odds. At the end of the day, she apparently doesn't seem to need them in order to rule, which Twilight agrees to, much to Spike's surprise. Like, that's what I'm talking about. You can still see that young baby dragon in all that beefcake. But as we get the final showing of the theme song, like, oh man, it really hit me watching this that, oh man, that's it. That's the end. We're really about to finish off this series. And I could feel my chest tightening. Like, wow, I'm really gonna finish this series. I don't know if I'm ready. And oh man, I wasn't ready. As Spike does question what Twilight is up to in telling Luster Dawn that she was correct. But Twilight takes Luster Dawn down the Hall of Memories, I like to call it, as we get to see the young six battling a creature and the defeat of Turek, Cozy Glow, and Chrysalis, as well as a teenage-looking Cozy Glow. Flurry Heart, which, I would have loved to have seen her in person, all grown up, like, dude. And it kind of looks like she took over the Crystal Empire as well, but Twilight tells Cozy Glow, Luster Dawn, a bit of a story of her most devastating friendship problem. The day that she was crowned Princess of Equestria. And we see her in a flashback running through the halls of her castle, trying to find any last scrap of something that she still needs to take with her to Canterlot Castle. She's even grabbing Spike's old comic books, which Spike says, it's fine if you leave them behind. Ultimately, I don't think I'll need them anymore since I'm growing up. But Twilight sees that as a bit of a problem, in relation to her own problem and the fact that she doesn't like the idea of leaving anything behind, leaving her friends behind, leaving this place where she was able to grow and develop and meet all these various different people, that she was able to experience all these wonderful things because she came to Ponyville. But now she's leaving for Canterlot, which was her home growing up, but, here feels like her home. She made a name for herself right here in Ponyville, doing the various things that she's grown accustomed to, and leaving behind her friends and all that is not sitting right with her. She feels that ultimately, how can she go on not having her friends anymore? And while Spike does question, hey, I thought you were going to rule together, something that I was thinking as well. Ultimately, she says, well, that's my position. Ultimately, the rest of them still have jobs, lives here in Ponyville, which is right, which is something that I was kind of questioning. Don't these characters all have jobs, lives, loved ones here in Ponyville? Yeah, they can make the trip back and forth, but still. And Twilight's not really looking to pull them all the way just to go with her. So Spike suggests, well, maybe you should just talk to your friends about all this. Maybe talking it out will help you to overcome these feelings that you're having inside. And as Twilight does just that, she meets up with Applejack, who really just says, well, that's just a part of, that's a part of growing up. That's a part of time passing. And she's really busy getting all these various different Apple products to the royal coronation. And same with Pinkie Pie. She's preparing the fireworks, and she'll be royal party advisor for the Grand Galloping Galas and all that. So she's been pretty busy as well. We even see a nice little performance that Fluttershy has all set up, and she's getting all her various different animal friends all set up for the long journey, preparing different snacks and the like. And she feels that, oh, Twilight, you must be so excited because I know I am. She's really kind of laid it on thick that, oh, it'll be fine. You're probably gonna have the time of your life. And we see Rainbow Dash is preparing the Wonderbolts for a very overly complex routine, as Spitfire puts it. But Rainbow Dash is determined to get this right and doesn't have much time to talk to Twilight. And when Twilight talks to Rarity, who is preparing a gown for Twilight, with a sash created out of this special star spider web, using that as a form of thread, Rarity tells her, well, that ultimately that's just the way things are. It's not like we'll be apart forever. So Twilight kind of feels dejected. Feeling that none of her friends are really taking this seriously. She's really broken up about all of this, and she feels that no one's really taking her feelings into true account for all of this. But when all of her friends show up ready to move out onto Canterlot, some of them still have preparations they still need to do. Twilight feels pretty bummed, because apparently they won't be able to ride the train together to Canterlot because they still have last minute preparations. And she's starting to feel like maybe they don't care, as they're basically trying to push her out the door almost. And she just kind of loses it for a moment, feeling like, why don't you care about this? I'm leaving. Don't you, aren't you my friend? Shouldn't you be caring a little bit more about all of this? And this really shocks all of her friends. And as Luster Dawn says, well, yeah, there you go. Ultimately, your friendship broke apart and that was the end of it. But of course, that's not the end of the story. As, Twilight's friends kind of question, like, how could you think that we don't care? Of course we care, but Twilight says, well, when I went to you to talk about my issues, about how I was feeling about all of this, you just seemed to care more about the coronation than how I was feeling about the situation. And they kind of admit that that's just because they were really trying to push those feelings away. They didn't want to make Twilight feel bad about leaving, because honestly, they were broken up too. They don't want to see her leave. They don't want to drift apart, as it were, but ultimately that's what has to happen. That's just another changing of the times. Good times come and go, but they feel terrible about making Twilight feel like her emotions weren't valid. Of course they were valid. They were all feeling that way. And, they have a nice little cry, which I couldn't sit through. I really couldn't. I couldn't do it. Like, I was watching all this, I was going to start bawling as well. It's just like, no, don't you do this to me. As, unfortunately, this is broken up by the fact that they are very much running behind on time. So they end up rushing past Starlight Glimmer, trying to catch up with the train, with Twilight poofing them on board. But all of them weren't all supposed to be on board. They had other stuff to do, as Rarity is kind of behind on her sewing of Twilight's sash, and Big Mac is now in charge of making the deliveries, but without Applejack there, he's kind of getting a little bit mixed up. Fluttershy was supposed to get snacks for some of the birds who are doing the performance. Rainbow Dash still has to do the last minute preparations with the Wonderbolts, and she feels that she still needs to be there to coordinate, when unfortunately she arrives too late as they've already left. And Pinkie Pie unfortunately kind of left Gummy in charge of the fireworks, so things are already starting to look pretty bad. And worse still is the fact that there is a blockage as the train is trying to progress forward. But Twilight does manage to make it there on time, still with some minor inconveniences, as the princesses do their best to try to stall things, as the whole situation is about to get underway, but Rarity still hasn't finished up Twilight's dress. So the princesses come out to greet the various guests, and it is a who's who showing. Everyone is here except for Sunset Shimmer. That's the one thing that bugged me. The fact that Sunset Shimmer wasn't here for this. Like, yo, how dare you snub my girl on this? But, she has her own world she's living in. It's a little bit harder to get someone who's in a whole nother dimension. But, Celestia and Luna talk about how eventually it was always going to come to pass that they would, move on, that they would no longer be in charge of things, and they feel that Twilight is very much up to this task. And as I said, everyone is in attendance. Her parents are there all happy, and hey, Tempest Shadow, I see you there, girl. Love you. And not to mention, Caliver? The cat dude. I love his outfit, like his royal looking outfit. Man, I would love to hear Taye Diggs voicing him again, but enough gawking over all of that. Everyone is here. It's so great to see all these characters. Just try to remember different characters if I can have it dawn on me where I remember them from. But as Rarity finishes up Twilight's dress, with a little bit of a hiccup here and there, Twilight ends up falling straight on her face as she runs out to try to, come out for her presentation. But she manages to recover just in time for us to see how she gets her crown through a combination of Celestia and Luna's crowns, which is really wild. Honestly, it kind of raises the question of, were their crowns made of magic or what? Is that how that always happens and the previous rulers of Equestria had a crown or something? Really raises a lot of questions in terms of this. But regardless, Luna is more concerned over the fact that there's a star spider on Twilight still. And unfortunately, the star spiders have a bit of a beef with the birds and the butterflies, and that creates a bit of an issue for the performance that Fluttershy was supposed to have going as well. And she's experiencing a bit of a revolt from the birds, as they're none too happy about the fact that they don't have any snacks after they flew all the way to Canterlot. Meanwhile, Spitfire is just like, well, Rainbow Dash is still not here, and Twilight's about to get that crown, so we better go in, only for Rainbow Dash to arrive all too late, as, Gummy sets off the various fireworks, which still need to see Gummy do something, man. And with all the fireworks going off and the Wonderbolts out in the air, getting confused by it, they bump into the birds, who end up losing the crown as they were supposed to bring it down upon Twilight's head, and Twilight ends up jumping for the crown, and it is an unmitigated disaster. But honestly, wouldn't be this series if it wasn't. Seriously, if we didn't have everything be a catastrophe, that we wouldn't be watching the right series, as Applejack tries to salvage the situation by giving a toast of her apple juice that arrived. Unfortunately, what's on hand is the apple sauce that was supposed to go to the baker. Also, Lyra and Bonbon, they wives. Right in the back there. Lyra and Bonbon totally holding hooves, which is kind of weird. But, how do you hold hooves? But, adorable. But, unfortunately, I feel so bad for Big Mac because he feels devastated over this. Oh man, I messed up big time, and at least your wife is trying to comfort you. It's so bad. It's just so bad. And I love Luna's reaction to this, because it's just close enough. That is such a Luna thing to say at this point, because Luna has pretty much taken on this very laid back role in terms of things, and and like she's just like, considering it's Twilight's coronation, this is about what we expected. And Twilight is kind of devastated by all these events. It's really hilariously sad. It really is, but honestly, it's Twilight's coronation. If it went off without a hitch, I would call shenanigans. As Luster Dawn is just like, okay, so the coronation was terrible, your friends and you drifted apart because of how bad it was, end of story, right? But no, of course that's not how the story ends. Stop interrupting, kid. As we actually end up seeing that, well, her friends didn't drift apart. In fact, they're coming in for a specific meeting, namely what's called the Council of Friendship meeting, as Pinkie Pie shows up with, of all things, her daughter, Little Cheese, which... What? What? Pinkie Pie and Cheese Sandwich got together and, in the words of Syndrome, got busy. Like, what? And Boneless Six as well. But, dude, what? What? And my shock continued on for the next 5 minutes as we find out more as we go along. Namely that Rarity is, does fashion and all that all across the world, and she's just returning from Yakistan. Apparently, Rainbow Dash and Applejack come in arguing about the fact that Rainbow Dash doesn't get to do chores around the house because Applejack won't let her. Around the house? The house that you both share? Are you married? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, golly gee. Like, what? Mwah, beautiful. Beautiful. I was in such disbelief in seeing this. Like, are you kidding me? What? Like, they don't say it in so many words, but just the shock that washed over me was just... Like, I had to take a moment because I wasn't expecting them to make this, like, the conclusion for these two. Because they always argue like an old married couple, but, like, to actually make them an old married couple. Because even when they come in, they're an old married couple. It's just like, yeah, but I wasn't expecting you to actually do it. Although a few people who ship Rainbow Dash and Applejack with other ponies are gonna feel a little bit dejected, but I'm like, wow, yo, this is great. And we see Discord seeing all Fluttershy, and we're not really presented it in the same way as with Applejack and Rainbow Dash, but I swear to God, those two are together as well. Like, straight up, they are totally together. I will not take any other words on this matter. They are totally together. He's seeing her off with a lunch. Like, no, they are together. You cannot tell me otherwise. Oh my goodness. As, well, Luster Dawn kind of questions this. It's just like, wait, so you all still see each other? But you don't see each other that often, and it's kind of explained that, well, yeah, that's a part of growing up, but every once in a while we try to get together and just talk things out. We're still friends. Yeah, there's some distance between us, but we're still great and fabulous friends. And she explains the rest of the story specifically. And after the coronation, Twilight was completely exhausted after everything, but they have a good laugh because, as per usual, it's Twilight's coronation. Anything else would have been ridiculous. And we get a bit of a send-off for Starlight in terms of this, as it turns out that everyone pitched in to create a bit of a kind of almost moving scrapbook for Twilight, as with all these memories of all of her friends and stuff. A book of friendship, a present from all of her closest friends, which is, oh man, like I was tearing up hard at this part. Like, oh my god, that's so sad because I've been through stuff like this where you kind of have to say goodbye to some of your friends because you're not gonna see each other as often as you would like, but you still keep in touch. Of course, you still keep in touch. When you have good friends that you love and appreciate, you don't just completely cut ties. Why would you do that? Keep in touch. Try to meet where you can. Because your true friends are always gonna want to connect and be with you in some way, shape, or form. And Twilight decides that she wants to treasure her friends no matter what may come. And she makes a decree that they will meet every moon? I don't really know what that means. Like every moon? Do you mean like every night that the moon is full or something like that? Is that how that works? Whatever. They'll meet every few months or so just to check up on everything and just hang out as friends. Which, Celestia and Luna are all too happy to hear because they felt that, well, that's true to Twilight's person. You know, they feel that they've left Equestria in good hands, as Twilight has done so much more than they could have hoped for, and she's really shown the kind of pony she was supposed to be. As they get ready to retire to, I think it was Silver Shores or something, that retirement home from way back in season, earlier in the season where that older pony was, that librarian pony that Twilight was chasing off of. And I'm just like, yo, I know y'all old, but, I would think you would retire to someplace like your own, like maybe rebuild up your old castle or something along those lines. Although I know that there's now another castle in your old castle. Well, a tree house. Whatever. They can do whatever they want. Like, they're retired. They don't care anymore. And, Twilight gets to say how much, she wasn't expecting things to change, but she's glad that she's got to have all these experiences. She's so happy that Celestia believed in her so much. And, honestly, seeing how everything turned out, Celestia was right on the mark. She really knows how to pick her students, as two of them turned out pretty good. And we get one last group hug of all of these wonderful little ponies. And so we cut to the present day, as Luster Dawn is like, oh, okay, I get it. Friendship is something that you don't let die, you work at keeping it alive. If you really care about it, of course you keep it alive. It's something that you should treasure, at least try to find, because, that helps lighten the load on you. Your sad times, your happy times, everything in between. Those are great to share with someone else, and that can really help you grow as a person as well. But as Luster Dawn kind of questions, well, how should I even do that? I don't have anything like that. I don't really have friends, but Twilight has something in mind and has a place that she should show Luster Dawn in order to help her find the magic within her. But, she's uncertain. She's new to this whole friendship thing, but, if you have friends by your side, they'll help you in ways that you could never have imagined. And we get the final song of our series, Magic of Friendship, which plays on a lot of words in terms of the opening song. Like, there are so many parallels that it's just so kind of surreal. But, this really caps off the series, and like, as soon as this song started, I almost started bawling, and we weren't even at the really touching parts, as Twilight, brings everyone together to transport them to none other than good old Ponyville, where we see all of our old friends, still together, still friends till the end. Lyra and Bon Bon are still wives, still married after all these years. And, Lusher Dawn, is in good company with various different ponies greeting her and just being good old friendly folk. Because, well, Ponyville is one of the friendliest places on Equestria. As we get to see everyone's lives, the Cake Twins have grown up and are still, helping out at the bakery. And Pinkie Pie is with her, I assume, husband cheese sandwich with their little cheese, and Gummy. Gummy is ginormous. And man, how surreal to see this picture. Just all of them together and the Cake Twins so big. Man, how much time has passed. Wow, it's surreal. But at the same time, man, wow. Even seeing it, I can't believe it. It's not like I didn't want this, don't get me wrong, but it's just so taking me off guard to actually see this. It's really setting in that this is the end of things. As Rainbow Dash, of course, has basically taken over Spitfire's position as, basically leading the entire base of the Wonderbolts, leading new recruits and all that good stuff, because of course she would. And we actually pop over to the School of Friendship, where we see that Silverstream is still hanging out there, and a few familiar faces are still there as well. As we see that Sunburst, as well as, of course, Starlight Glimmer is still head mare, and she looks good in a business suit. Man, she's rocking that look. But, they're both there still running things as well, and we see that, hey, we have a few other additions to the school staff. Trixie is still vice head mare, but the Cutie Mark Crusaders also run the curriculum there at the School of Friendship as well. And on top of that, oh my god, my emotions are so all over the place at this point. Ocelus is also working there at the school as well, and we also see that Smolder is there too. I don't know if she's, she seems to be charting some courses or stars or whatever, and drinking tea. The one thing she seems to have embraced that for the most part. But to see Ocelus just so much bigger, an actual changeling, not a changeling child, a changeling adult, and it's so interesting to still see them hanging around there. Although I'm surprised that Smolder isn't a bit bigger, but who knows. And we also take a visit to the apple farm where Big Mac's rocking that, old man Mac look. Well, not old man, oldish man, Big Mac. And we see that he and his wife have had a son, so the Apple legacy will live on. Well, of course it was going to live on. Applejack would damn well make sure of that as well. But, the little fellow hugging his gay aunt. It's so great to kind of see all of this stuff, and did Winona have pups? I think Winona had pups as well at some point, because you see a bunch of little miniature Winonas running around in various different colors and all that good stuff. But of course the apple farm is still alive and intact, although the fact that Granny Smith, I don't remember seeing her, so weird implications of what happened to Granny Smith and that. But we also get to see, of all things, Rarity's boutique in Ponyville is still alive and well, and of all things, it is being run by both Yona and Sandbar. When it's kind of implied that relationship they kind of had going in that one episode actually continued on, which, hey, Sandbar likes his girls thick. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's terrible, but you know it's true. You know it's true. Boy be climbing up on Mount Yona every. Oh my god, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. Let's move on. Let's move on as, you know, we see Discord shepherding, various different animals from all over. I don't know if Angel Bunny is still around the same size as we see various different other bunnies that look like Angel. So Angel also got busy. So that way Discord and Fluttershy could have their alone time, because I swear to God they are in a relationship. Like, there's so many implications that they are in a genuine relationship, and I will not be convinced otherwise. And we get this montage of all the various different characters that each of the main six connected with and had great friendships with and all that. And yep, this is where I genuinely started crying. Like, even looking at this, I am tearing up, because it's just, all the fun, all the laughter, all the happiness that was brought about by these characters, all the kindness that was shared, the lovely emotions, how they taught others to be sweet and nice and caring to each other, and how loyal some of these characters were, how they had these great deep bonds that couldn't be broken in any way, shape, or form, the lives that they helped to bring forward and make even better in ways that you wouldn't have even imagined, how just being honest with each other, teaching that was always the way you should take, always the route you should take, because with honesty you're able to bring about all these solid emotions. You're able to always keep things genuine no matter what, in every way, shape, or imaginable. Honesty is always the best way to go. And being generous, being kind, how just doing that, opening your heart, just being willing to give of yourself was able to show that, hey, sometimes that's the best way to go. That's the right way to go. Opening your heart to others and showing them that generosity helps others grow and teaches them how to be better along the way. And friendship shapes everything. That's the best way to grow, to know someone. Extending that hand of friendship can change so much. So many other series teach that as well. Steven Universe taught that. Star vs. the Forces of Evil taught that. OKKO taught that. And all those series started during the time frame of this one series. We're entering a new decade, and I really do hope we continue on with stories that teach all these values, because that's the one thing that really truly helped me stick around for this series. Yes, some of the stories got repetitive and kind of got a little bit long in the tooth. The one thing that always continued was the good values this series taught. And hell, if I had kids, I definitely want them to watch this as well, because they kept up having good lessons, good fun, and just showing that friendship is always the way. And as we come to the conclusion of things, Twilight sets Luster Dawn off into Ponyville to find her own way, to find her own friends, to gain her own experiences, and to create her own gang of friends who will hopefully create their own new magical memory, have their own adventures, and experience things in ways that Main Six could only imagine. Because, well, one story's end is another one's beginning. But for now, friendship will live on in the story that will never end. As long as you have continued to keep up your bonds of friendship that you have gained because of this series, because I know this series impacted a lot of people's lives, helped them find their creativity, find their voice, find friends, hell, find love in certain situations. I it just really is such a wonderful feeling because I was able to stick with this because so many people found their creativity, found their voice, just found so much out about themselves because of it. And I know a lot of series do that as well, but it was so much more apparent with this series because of stuff like the Brony movie or what have you. You know, it challenged a lot of conventions in a lot of ways. And because of that, a lot of series were willing to open up to this idea that, hey, show people being kinder, doing things through other means. You know, not trying to always solve things with violence. I mean, yes, sometimes that's unavoidable, but sometimes just being nice to one another is the way to go. And I'd like to end this off by saying that if you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for giving this series a chance. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching this video. Thank you for giving these wonderful creators and this series created by Lauren Faust a chance up until the very end. I know for some this series hasn't come out, well, the last few episodes haven't come out where they are. And if that's the case, don't spoil it for them. Let them experience all these feelings, all these emotions themselves. Because, well, at this point, you'd be surprised. Maybe even if you haven't cared for this series, its values, its kindness has still stuck with you. I wasn't ready for this series to end, but I'm glad I stuck around for the ending nonetheless. Because it was magical. And it helped me be a better friend in ways that I couldn't even begin to list off. So, I'll just leave you with that. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. And definitely comment below how you felt about this finale. I hope you enjoyed it, because I very much did. I loved it. And I hope you were able to too. But regardless, tell me your feelings in the comment section below. And if anything else, just say hi to a friend you have in me. Because anyone who cares about this series is automatically my friend. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I'm everywhere. For all you know, we might have a lot more in common than just this show. And on top of that, subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm still bringing various other different reviews down the line, and I'm hoping to at one point make a video about the various characters I really loved in this series as a whole. I still just feel like I need to get some of these emotions out about this series and just gush about it just a little bit more, but this video has already gone on far too long. So I just want to thank you again for joining me for this video, for this finale. And I just want to leave you with one last heartfelt thank you for joining me on this journey to the end of Friendship is Magic. Until we meet again later down the line, thank you so much. And I will see you somewhere in the magic of friendship.